Hey fam, welcome back to the channel. Today we're making two legendary Pokemon based on two legendary YouTubers with legendary hearts, MR.BEAST and MR.BEAST. You probably have already guessed where this is going. Whether you have or not, let's get right into the video. Alright, so I had already planned what kind of legendary Pokemon they should be. I wanted them to be gods of the oceans. But why is that, you may ask? Well, it's because both these amazing YouTubers are teaming up and bringing together the YouTube community once again, this time as TeamSeas. The goal is to remove 30 million pounds of waste from the ocean. More details on this legendary moment at the end of the video. So I really want you to watch the whole thing. How this video is gonna work is I have to figure out base inspiration like animals or an object that could be related to water purification, mix it with an ocean purification myth or legend or other legends related to it, and then mix it with either MR.BEAST or MR.BEAST and somehow incorporate the YouTube community into the designs. So without further ado, let's take a look at how the first legendary was made. I know Whalmer and Wailord are already based on baleen whales, more particularly the blue whale, but well, they're not legendary, and Kyogre is based on an orca, which is a toothed whale and not a baleen whale. So I wanted to do a baleen whale. So much baleen here. But there are several types of them. For those who don't know, baleen whales are whales that use baleen plates in their mouth to filter feed, unlike their toothed cousins. Species of baleen whales include the blue whale, humpback whales, grey whales, right whales, and 10 others. It was a bit of a problem as to which one I should use for this, but I chose the right whale as it had a lot more to work with, like an almost exaggerated mouth curve and rough patches in the skin called callosities that look like patterns. The right whale for the job, I guess. Yeah, I should probably shoot myself for these jokes. Now that I have a base animal, I have to find a mythology to base the design off of, since that's what makes legendaries, well, legendary. It was really hard to find mythologies based on whales, but the closest one was a Hawaiian god named Kanaloa, their god of the ocean, associated with healing and long-distance voyaging. Not much is known about this god. Kanaloa is usually represented by squids and octopuses, while sometimes he's also depicted as a whale. I took the inspiration and thought, why not make a Pokemon that's a mixture of both a whale and a giant squid? And yes, that sounded like a pretty dope idea to me, so I went with it. A lot of designs were going through my mind, but I had to do one more thing. I had to incorporate MR.BEAST into the design and the YouTube community. I thought about MR.BEAST's logo and decided to use its color scheme on the whale. How I would incorporate the YouTube community? Well, obviously the red play button logo on a vast squid forehead. I couldn't come up with anything better because I'm really dumb. And maybe its entire squid body had filtration vents that was active all the time. That was what I had in mind. I don't know if it came out right. And finally, the name. I mixed the Hawaiian words for squid, whale, purifying, and Jimmy to get Mukohomi. Does it slap? I don't know. Mukohomi, the legendary purifying Pokemon. Legend says that a Wailord was trying to save its son that had wandered off into dark, murky waters near a human factory that was dumping all of its waste directly into the waters. The Wailord, as it went deeper into the area, was taking in all the toxic waste, and probably so was its son. It soon became sick and it was dying a slow, painful death. But that didn't stop it from pursuing its lost son. It wouldn't even stop if it died. Its painful moans traveled far and wide into the ocean and was noticed by Kyogre, who immediately sped in its direction. When Kyogre realized what was going on, he gifted the Wailord with the power to purify the murky waters and get back its son, transforming it into the legendary purifying Pokemon called Mukohomi, who purified the waters and found that its son had died. Its mind was determined that this fate should not befall anyone else and went venturing into all the intoxicated parts of the ocean with all of its arms and tentacles constantly purifying the ocean of the toxic human-made waste. Alright, now let's move on to the second design, the MR.BEAST Pokemon. For this, I wanted to use one of the filter feeding sharks, as MR.BEAST had done videos involving sharks more than once, although not the filter feeding kind. It was just a handful of filter feeding sharks, so it was a bit more easier. Sharks evolved filter feeding completely independent from the whales through a process called convergent evolution. Whales and sharks have completely different ways of filter feeding, as sharks use their gills for doing the filtering. These filter feeding sharks are some of the most massive sharks in the world. Think whale shark, the largest fish in the world. and megamouths and basking sharks, all giants in the ocean, but they feed on the smallest creatures in the water like krill, plankton, and sometimes smaller fish. Look at that, irony in nature. I really liked the patterns inside the mouth of the basking sharks and the patterns on the skin of the whale shark. Well, I decided to combine that. Next, I had to figure out what mythology to use. Since our first legendary was a Hawaiian one, I decided to search there, and of course, they had shark gods. Quite important ones too, and it was a pretty cool story. These shark gods were in a battle of sharks between man-eating sharks and the ones trying to protect man. That gave me an idea. How about a shark fighting for the ocean against disruptive forces of man? As I kept doing research, I came across a Japanese yokai named Samabito that was half man and half shark. That was also a cool design, almost like King Shark, so I took that in as well. So that was it for the legends part. Next, I had to incorporate ROBER into the design. Once the design was done, his inspiration in the design looks very subtle, but here's what I was going for. ROBER is a scientist who could symbolize science, and ROBER has made so many amazing inventions and stuff, and it can be seen in the early videos on his channel. One of the shark god stories in the Hawaiian culture had a shark god that helped fishermen to throw nets in the water to catch fish. With that in mind, I imagined what if the shark was covered in a net, and maybe that would be the whale shark pattern. And then I thought, yeah, what if the whale shark pattern was like floating around the shark like some sort of anti-gravity armor design? Since this would be a fighting shark, and this is gonna be cheesy, so strap yourself. What if the armor was powered by the energy of truth? Since like science symbolized truth as well. This shark too purified the waters, but it was not actively a purifier like Mukahomi, as it was a fighter like an activist. Also, ROBER used to make these Halloween t-shirts that had a lot of creepy moving eyes and stuff, so I made a floating third eye pattern through the same truth energy that made the net arm. I transported the gills of the basking shark to the tail, again powered by the energy of truth, and this is where purified water came out. As a final ROBER nail, I put in his brand's logo on the shoulder, floating of course, but this time not by the truth energy. This was probably just a parasite or something. For the YouTube community, I put the play button on his fins and kneecaps. For the name, I merged Hawaiian words for science, shark, water, and the name Mark to get Penoquark. Penoquark, the ocean warrior Pokemon. This Pokemon was said to be made by Kyogre to protect the water from further pollution by the humans. Kyogre did this because the ocean pollution had become way too much for the ocean life to handle. Penoquark started to destroy all human factories and polluting sources, wrecking civilization all around the world as it was big and fast and could travel the world 7 times over in a single day. It rampaged around the world for years and stopped when it saw that the pollution had decreased, after which it went into deep slumber. Those years were called Peno-apocalypse. Humans have tried to go clean after that, but they would eventually move back to pollution. If Penoquark awakes from its slumber, there is no guarantee that he's going to show any mercy. So those are the 2 legendaries of the day. I really hope you like them. Please do make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more fakemon content. And hold on, MR.BEAST and ROBER are 2 of my most favorite YouTubers. As you guys know, 2 years ago they put together a project called #TeamSeas to plant 1 tree for every $1 donated, and have already planted over 20 million trees, collaborating with probably the entire YouTuber community, and the number is increasing every day. Like I said, they are teaming up again, this time to help save the ocean as TeamSeas. Boy, do they sound like potential enemy teams in Pokemon. Except TeamSeas is trying to save the world. For every $1 that is donated to the cause, 1 pound of plastic waste is cleaned from the ocean. They are teaming up with non-profit organizations like Ocean Conservancy, Ocean Cleanup, and UN to clear the oceans, rivers, and beaches separately. A lot of YouTubers may already have posted tons of videos on the subject, and I'm just doing my part in promoting the movement. We're trying to hit 30 million pounds of litter. It may sound like a lot, but we all know it's more than doable. Come on, it's high time that we think about the ocean and try to clean up our mess, as it's affecting a lot of life in the ocean, which houses millions of awesome species and ecosystems. Together we can help save them. I have put the link to the TeamSeas website in the description. Make sure you go there and donate at least $1 to this absolutely noble cause. If anyone can make a change in the world, it's us, so I implore you to do it. And with that being said, I'll catch you all next week.